I returned with the towel still warm from the heater, expecting the same silence I'd left behind. Moist air, the scent of fig from the oils he liked, soft light curling along the marble. Instead, I stepped into a room that had changed shape. The steam was heavier, saturated. Breathing. I hesitated in the doorway, towel in one hand, fingers already wet with condensation. And then I saw them. His back to me, bare, relaxed. One hand resting too intimately on the shoulder of a woman whose profile was almost obscured by the mist. She didn't turn right away. She lifted her chin slightly, as if responding to a script I hadn't read. Her skin still damp, glistening, familiar. Too familiar. I froze. Not in fear, but in calibration. The way her body mirrored mine, the curve of the spine, the freckle on the shoulder, even the tilt of the wrist, forced a pause in my breathing. And when she finally looked up, slowly, her eyes met mine, with no shock, no guilt, just recognition. And then she spoke my name. It wasn't just my name. It was my voice. Down to the rhythm, the breath, the slight fall off at the end. She said it like I would say it to him. Like I had. And in that instant, I realized I wasn't the only one occupying my life. My fingers uncurled and the towel slipped, soundless, onto the tile. He didn't flinch. He didn't turn fully. Just enough to glance over his shoulder, as if he'd been waiting for me to see. As if I was late. I stepped backward, out of the doorway, not sure if I'd made a sound. The air behind me felt colder, like the room itself had shifted its allegiance. I didn't close the door. I didn't need to. It sealed itself behind me with a soft pressure, as though the room had exhaled me. I stood in the hallway barefoot, towelless, the air brushing my skin in cool ribbons. Somewhere inside, water still ran, but I wasn't sure anymore which world it belonged to, and I walked. Past the orchid that hadn't bloomed since our arrival, past the corridor with the flickering light. My reflection followed me too perfectly in the glass paneling, too still when I moved. I re-entered the suite like a guest in someone else's room. The silence was precise. No television, no music, only the low hum of systems I couldn't name. The minibar light blinked once. I opened it and removed a glass bottle, held it to my wrist, let the cold bite. When he returned 10 minutes later, his robe was loose and damp at the hem. His face was calm. Too calm, I didn't ask. Neither did he. He poured himself a drink and sat on the edge of the bed, fingers tapping once against the glass before lifting it to his lips. I turned away before he could speak. Whatever version of him she was looking at, he was still holding that gaze. Later, in the dark, I lay with eyes open, breathing in sync with the hush of the air vents. The sheets smelled like me. But not only me. At 2:37 a.m., I slipped from the bed and walked to the bathroom. Empty now. The mirror was still fogged at the edges. I traced my fingertip along the bottom where the steam had cleared. My face looked back, but something behind my shoulder pulsed faintly, like a shimmer. I didn't turn. I walked out and opened the drawer in his suitcase. Beneath neatly folded shirts, a phone I'd never seen. Slim. Black. No lock screen. I powered it on. There were no messages. No calls. Just one photo. NNME. NNBUT, not NNTHE. Smile was wider. The eyes, too. Still. And he stood behind her, hand on her shoulder, exactly where mine had been touched. In the morning, nothing was said. Not through omission, through orchestration. He ordered breakfast like nothing had shifted. Eggs without yolk, fruit chilled, coffee black. His robe was pressed, the paper untouched. He read the air instead, like a man used to finding data in absence. I watched him from across the table. My body was still wrapped in the silk robe the hotel provided, but it clung to me now, too heavy in the wrong places. He asked if I wanted to swim. I nodded, knowing we wouldn't. That's how mornings worked with us. Plans that held only as long as the next silence. An NTHE pool glistened below the terrace, a perfect rectangle cut into the cliff. No one used it. Not once. The loungers remained aligned like stage props, untouched. I stood behind the glass doors and watched the light fracture across the surface, waiting for a movement that never came. I wanted to go back into the bathroom and confront the mirror. but I already knew what it would reflect. Her. Me. Or the version of me that had said my name like it was hers to keep. NNHE stood behind me now. Close, not touching. His breath didn't break the air, but I felt him watching the same water. His hand lifted once, paused just near my shoulder, then dropped. "You seemed tired last night," he said. I didn't answer. He exhaled. Sharp. Once. And walked away. That sound stayed with me longer than his presence. I touched the glass. Cold. Real. My own reflection blurred under my palm, as if resistant to pressure. Or memory. Later, I asked the concierge if a new staff member had joined recently. A woman, tall, olive skin, hair like mine. The girl at the desk smiled too politely. "We have rotating attendants, but no one matching that exact description." She hesitated, then added, "Is everything okay, madam?" I nodded, smiled. Left before the fake concern could curdle. On the way back to the suite, I passed a housekeeping cart. It was parked by a door half closed. I looked inside. Empty. Immaculate. But the mirror in that bathroom was slightly cracked. Just enough to split a reflection. Barely. Enough to hide two faces in one. NNHE was out when I returned. I searched for her. Not physically, but in the air. I walked the suite like a reader skimming a familiar book for lines that had changed. The bracelet I had left on the nightstand was gone. Or rather, replaced. It looked identical, but the clasp had shifted. Smoother. I put it on without thinking. The click was too quiet. Too easy. And I walked into the bathroom again. This time, no steam. No sound. I stared into the mirror for a full minute before she appeared. Not gradually. Just there. Standing behind me, reflection only, her head tilted the opposite way, wearing what I wore. But her mouth was moving. Mine wasn't. Her eyes didn't blink in time with mine. And then, slowly, her hand lifted, touching her own face, trailing fingers from temple to lip. Nye stepped away, and SHE didn't. I didn't tell him what I saw. Not that he'd believe it, or worse, pretend to. That was his skill, curated disbelief, letting silence carry what words would distort. He returned that evening with 2 glasses of something gold and still. Handed me one, his fingertips grazed mine. The bracelet on my wrist hummed faintly, like static, cotton skin. He asked nothing. I followed suit. We sat on the terrace, the sea flattening into a dark mirror. The wind had stilled, not quiet, hushed, like something had paused to listen. NNHE asked if I remembered the woman from Marrakesh, the one who mistook me for someone she knew. I shook my head. Not because I didn't remember, but because that night had always bothered me. She'd said my name without introduction, had laughed when I corrected her. "No, you're definitely her," she'd said. "Even the way you deny it is the same." At the time, I thought it was a drunk misrecognition. No, I wasn't sure, and I watched him while he drank. His jaw shifted subtly, always to the left. A habit. Or a tell. I'd memorized his movements early. The way you memorize traffic sounds outside your childhood window. Soothing, because they're predictable. But now, that same movement made me tense. As if I was waiting for the loop to break. For him to drink differently. To look at me too long. Or not at all. And later, while he slept, I took the phone again. The second photo had appeared. Same woman. Same angle. This time, her hand rested on his chest. Mine never did. I tapped the screen. It flickered once, then went black. No backlight. Just my face reflected in the glass. I placed the phone back and walked to the window. The lights on the far side of the coast blinked like Morse code. I wondered who they were blinking to. At dawn, I woke before him. The light hit only half of his face. The rest dissolved into the pillow. I touched the edge of the sheet. It was cool. I slipped out and walked to the private spa wing, open to guests before hours if you knew which door to push. I pushed. The hallway smelled of eucalyptus and bleach. The sound of running water echoed, uneven. One light buzzed faintly above the massage room. I turned the corner. and saw her NNNOT in the mirror, not in reflection, and standing, facing away hair damp. Robe half open, NNSHE stepped into the steam room without turning, and I followed. The heat struck first, not like comfort but like an invisible wall I passed through too quickly. The moment the door closed behind me, I felt it clamp to my skin, saturating everything from hair to heel. The room was dense, fragrant, with something herbal and acidic. My breath shortened instinctively, the way it does when you realize you're not alone. Visibility collapsed into a single plane of white noise, but somewhere ahead, a figure moved. She wasn't waiting, she was inhabiting. Her presence didn't pierce the steam, it shaped it. I stepped forward, robe clinging to my back. The stone underfoot was slick but warm, and I let one hand trail along the wall as I entered deeper into the room. Her silhouette sat across the curved bench, spine aligned with mine, posture eerily neutral. She didn't move until I did, and when I sat, she mirrored it. Ankle over ankle, hands relaxed, head slightly turned. We existed in parallel, as if cued by the same unseen director. Then, without facing me, she whispered his name. NNTHE sound was almost kind, not seductive, familiar, the way I would have said it if I'd already forgiven him. I didn't react immediately. I held the breath like a loaded room. I wanted to ask what she was, not who, what, but no question would have landed right. Not in that air, not in that silence. So I stood, slowly, felt the stone's refusal to let go of my skin. She stood too, not menacingly, just reflexively. The steam folded between us like a curtain in rehearsal. I stepped back toward the door. Her motion echoed mine. I reached for the handle. She did not. And when the door opened and the cool hallway air slapped my chest, I realized something simple. I was alone again. Whatever presence had been inside had chosen to stay behind, or never existed at all. And back in the suite, everything was subtly different. The curtains were open, though I'd left them drawn. The bed was immaculate, smoothed over in a way hotel staff never managed, not without leaving a trace. His suitcase was gone. The minibar closed. On the counter, my bracelet sat coiled like a dropped question. I picked it up and examined the clasp. Still slightly wrong, still too perfect. I left it there. The mirror in the bathroom was dry for the first time in days, and when I looked into it, nothing hovered behind me, just my face. Clean, symmetrical, unreadable. The silence in the room wasn't restful. It was engineered, as if sound had been taken out deliberately. And I went downstairs. Asked the front desk if my husband had checked out. The receptionist smiled like I'd complimented her. "We have no record of his departure," she said, fingers tapping a blank screen. "Perhaps he went on an early excursion?" I said nothing. The glass door opened before I touched it. Outside, the garden was overripe with scent, orange blossom and chlorinated humidity. A housekeeping cart sat parked near the hedge. Behind it, on a low wall, a woman peeled an orange with the precision of someone trained in something far more dangerous. She didn't look up. "You saw her," she said calmly. I didn't respond. She kept peeling. The rind came off in one spiral. "She only shows herself to one," she added. "Never both." I asked who she was talking about. The woman shrugged. "Depends who's missing." She tore the fruit in half. One side was seedless. The other had 5 dark seeds, gleaming like wet onyx. I didn't sleep that night. Not because of fear, because of alertness. The kind that sharpens the edges of furniture in the dark, that makes the air louder than any voice. I kept the lights off. Let the night hold its form. At 3:11 a.m., the phone rang once. Just once. No name, no number. I got up, crossed the suite barefoot. The carpet felt too smooth, like it had been replaced. I checked the door. No one. But the hallway smelled faintly of him. His cologne, that blend of cedar and smoke I once found intoxicating. Now it just confirmed what I knew. He'd been there. Without coming in, N and I opened the minibar. The bracelet was back inside. Same shape, same cold. It sat curled around a small folded note, cream-colored, hotel stationery. No handwriting, just an embossed mark. identical to the logo on the spa towels. I turned it over. Nothing. I placed the bracelet on my wrist again. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to know if it still remembered me. It slid on easily. Too easily. When I looked up, the bathroom mirror had fogged again, though no water had run. NNTHE next morning, I asked for the spa's guest log. That information is private, the manager said too quickly. I smiled, pressed a folded bill across the desk. She pretended not to see it, but typed something. I'm sorry, she said, voice thinner now. There's no record of you ever reserving the steam room. I thanked her. Walked out without touching the glass doors. On the way back to the room, I stopped by the library lounge. A man sat near the back, turning pages but never reading. He looked up. Paused. You were here last year, weren't you? I shook my head. I don't forget faces, he said. Especially not ones that ask the same questions. I asked what he meant. He closed the book. She was looking for him too. I didn't ask who. He wouldn't have answered. Back in the suite, the scent had changed again. Less fig, more metal. The kind that clings after blood. I checked the wardrobe. My dresses were intact, but one was inside out and still warm. I lifted the sleeve. The fabric was damp at the wrist, as if recently worn. The mirror held no movement, no shadow. But I knew she'd been here. I could feel the residual friction, the slight displacement of objects that only intimacy disturbs. I turned slowly, scanned the room. Then I opened the drawer where his second phone had been, empty now. And instead, I found a keycard.NNO number. No logo. Just a black strip and a name embossed on the back, and in mine. I didn't ask where the card led. I let it pull me. The hotel had corners I hadn't noticed before. Elevators that didn't open unless summoned with silence. Stairwells that dipped below the sea level. I passed through 3 corridors I was sure didn't exist yesterday. The lights dimmed incrementally, as if adapting to what I was becoming. The card slid into a panel near the staff wing. A soft chime. The door opened, not to a hallway, but to a room. Unfamiliar, NNBUT wrong. It was a mirror of our suite, down to the layout, the furniture, even the view. Only this one had no signs of us. No clothes, no glasses, no used towels. The bed was made too tightly, the air colder. And in the bathroom, the mirror was flawless. No fog, no delay, just me. Until she stepped in, NNNOT from the door, not from shadow, just in, as if she'd always been there. NNSHE wore the same dress I'd worn the night before the trip. Same lipstick, same wrist tension. Her hair was parted differently. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. I knew. She wasn't an imposter. Not exactly. She was a version of me, designed for him. For this place. For repetition. Her gaze scanned me with the casual efficiency of someone checking inventory. I moved first. NNSHE didn't stop me. I walked past her, toward the window. The sea was identical. The waves, too symmetrical. I reached out to touch the glass. My reflection blinked before I did. Behind me, I felt her step closer. NNHER breath matched mine. NNHER bracelet clicked against mine. Then she whispered, "N at his name. N, but mine." N, the room responded. NNTHE lights dimmed. The mirror softened. The temperature shifted. Like the architecture of the place was coded to her voice. My voice. She moved toward the closet, opened it. Inside, dozens of versions of the same dress. My size, my tags, my scent. NNSHE turned NNS, mild N, and handed me one. In that moment, I understood the offer wasn't threat. It was invitation. Replacement is a soft process. It starts with reflection, then it moves inward. And I didn't take the dress. And I walked to the mirror. Watched us stand, side by side, in same shoulders, same breath, in same man, but not the same story. And I turned off the lights, only